Alright, welcome to Rambling Achieved. We are picking up where we left off last episode. We're back-to-back recording, so we're not going to have to be digging through whatever I've played since whatever this is, the 18th of May. Probably only doing this one, so whatever comes next, unfortunately, will be another one where it's going to have to be picking up where we left off. So, FIFA 11. Don't have all that much nostalgia for FIFA 11. And I'm thinking back to it, like the big FIFA games that made an impact on me would have been FIFA 12, 13, 14, 15, and then 16 would have been probably the last one. That was like my stint of like being very, very attached to FIFA games. Never did Football Manager 2007 on the Xbox 360 or either of these two. Did a tiny amount of Riptide. Did a ton of the original Dead Island. I actually beat this originally at a friend's house over the course of a weekend staying there. We just sat there and binged through the entire game. Really, really fun. Really enjoyable. And it's one of them things where, yeah, you can look back on it and be like, man, this is not a very well-made game from top to bottom, but it's just one of them things where you're just enjoying the company that you're with, and it's like the perfect background game where you're just talking about anything and everything and fucking around, and has like that kind of combat loop where every now and then something funny will happen with the physics and stuff like that, and you get a laugh out of it. So I'll always have like a special place in my heart for the original Dead Island. Never, I mean, I can't say never. I got one achievement. I don't remember anything about that original Call of Juarez. Didn't play much of it at all. Did quite a bit of Bionicle Heroes on PS2, but didn't do anything on the 360. Never done Condemned 2. So, Batman Arkham Asylum. This is a funny one. I never actually enjoyed it when I first played it. It didn't grip me until I went and played through Arkham City much later, and that was during the transition period from 360 to the next gen, so I never went back and did the original Arkham Asylum until the Return to Arkham games come out, whereas the remaster of 1 and City. And yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about that now, of just like not being attached to that, because it obviously set the standard for the punch counter combat that we see so many third-person action games use, and also kind of set the standard for superhero games in a way. Like, yeah, we had like shitloads of Spider-Man games, but they varied heavily in quality. And the stuff like the Wolverine game, where it was like no one expected that to be good. But the Batman games, each and every one of them, even Origins, like as much as that gets shit, they're just really high quality games. Dirt 2, I thought I played a good chunk of Dirt 2. That must have been on like an alternate account. Bad Company 2, phenomenal single player. Didn't do very much of the multiplayer for this game. Just wasn't in that kind of pool of players at the time checking it out. The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, I still want to check this out. I remember this getting like split pretty 50-50 down the middle. Like some people kind of enjoyed it, other people thought it was like a complete crime against humanity the game existed, of it being like really bad. Kind of, yeah, a very Marmite-esque game. Aim Labs is just a, what would you call it? Like a training simulator for aiming and stuff like that. They just threw a bunch of achievements in it, and I was just messing around in it and got the 100%. Anarchy Reigns, never tried. Championship Manager, Fuel, like Harry Potter, never did any of these. So Condemned, I did do. Very, very, very much enjoyed Condemned. Very weird. 970G. This was before Xbox started having like universal rules set in place. I don't know why you would Like, why did you arrive at 970 of all the numbers? You know, kind of strange, kind of weird, but a very, very good first-person atmospheric, like horror-esque game. That and like Fear, I kind of put like hand in hand of like they just ooze atmosphere. The original Fear and Condemned Criminal Origins, like very fun games. Dirt Showdown, spin-off of the Dirt games, very much like Destruction Derby is what a lot of this game is. Very fun, very arcadey and enjoyable. Never did Instincts Predator, Bayonetta, or Sacred 2. Grid, I did do. I think I finished up the. I think I did the single player of this. And I don't know if. No, Grid Legends was the one where they had the FMV cutscenes. This was just a normal racing game, I think. I don't think this had FMV cutscenes. Whispike Survivors. This is just a Survivors like, nothing particularly special about it or anything memorable to really highlight and talk about. This is a weird one. So I don't have many achievements in this, but I have a little bit to say on it. So Myth Force is the. It's set as like a Saturday morning cartoon in the terms of like the art style that it's trying to convey in its game, and it's. Oh, what's the name of the game? It is a 4-player co-op roguelite where you're leveling up characters and stuff like that and getting like different abilities. I'm trying to think of that. There's been a few of them that have come out. I can't think of them. But it really had awful, awful performance problems. And I don't understand why and what was going on there. But yeah, if it didn't have them performance problems, like this game would be fine. It would be pretty okay. It's not gonna like push the genre forward at all. But like you could sit there and play it and be having fun with it. Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. Yeah, just a classic Lego game. I think most people who have interest in Lego have played it. It combines the first 3 movies and the prequel trilogies into one little bundle, and yeah, hell of a lot of fun. Wizardry Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord. I haven't played too much of it, but it's a first-person dungeon crawler. Yeah, from the Wizardry series. I don't know how many games are in the Wizardry series, but there's a lot of them. I imagine by now. Sandland. This is from the. Is it Creative Dragon Ball, I believe? And yeah, unfortunately, he's passed since. And this was also like a series that he did. I think he did there's a manga of it, and they ended up putting out a game for it, and it's one that I've dipped my toe into. I actually quite enjoyed it, but haven't gone back to it since. Darkest Dungeon 2, weird shift in what they went for with the sequel. There's a lot of changing that they did, to the point where I was kind of worried that we would see that with Slay the Spire 2. It's always the worry when you have like a niche kind of project that you don't think is going to be as big as it is, and then it blows up like Darkest Dungeon 1 did. And then they've heavily like altered what Darkest Dungeon is with Darkest Dungeon 2, and it kind of heavily split people. But yeah, I enjoyed it, but not as much as the first game as a complete package. Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy, one of the rare examples of a really damn good game. Unfortunately, this came out very close, sandwiched in between Marvel's Avengers and Suicide Squad, which had very, very bad tastes in the mouth. So people were just not interested in giving any like Marvel games that weren't Spider-Man a go, because this didn't sell very well at all. I remember it didn't do particularly well, and there were people who just assumed it was a live service game. I remember for a very long time, and it was just like, it's really unfortunate. It's this is what happens when like player trust is burned. That people will just start making their own assumptions, and it will end up affecting other products that have like similar. The similarities is, of course, it's a Marvel game, so people just assumed that it was going to be a live service game. Lego Indiana Jones 2 never did. Ashen, a very underrated Souls-like. Yeah, I remember this launching day one into Game Pass. It might have been a shadow drop at one of the Game Awards. Now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, really, really fun game. Entirely playable in co-op, but it has like a weird, how would you call it? It's like a seamless thing, because if you're in single player and online at the same time, you have a companion with you all the time that is AI. But if you're in the same area as a random other player, it like seamlessly like switches them in as the +1 of your thing, which was like a cool concept, but didn't really like do much. But yeah, it had issues with when you actually wanted to play with a friend, having like consistent co-op, because you had to like go out of the area and like hope that you match together. It was just kind of messy. Like that's something that Souls likes really need to fix. Like they work, a lot of them, with their co-op aspects, but they really should be better. It's something that Lords of the Fallen reboot did so damn well, where it's you invite your friend and then that is it, they are there. Like if you wanted to sit there without turning the game off at all, you could play through the entire game together. Even if you die and they die, you just spawn back at the same check. Like it's a fully functioning co-op game, as Souls-like should be by now. Oh, right. After that little mini rant. Ken Folle's The Pillars of the Earth. I think this is based off of a book. They also did a TV show of it as well. So like it's conquered every pillar of media. So yeah, it's a visual novel kind of esque blend of like being a Telltale like game as well. I didn't really find it all that compelling and ended up putting it down. Far Cry 6. I think if you're a gamer and you're watching this, you probably know what Far Cry is by now. I'd be very shocked if you don't. It's just another Far Cry game. Classic survival like elements, going around, hunting animals, stopping revolutions, open world. Yeah. Lots of stealth, lots of action. Kind of something I wish that they try and get right moving forward is they have all these charismatic villains and they don't really do much at all. Like you had Giancarlo Esposito, I think his name is, who's in that cover from Breaking Bad. He makes very few appearances throughout the entire game, in the same way that Voss didn't really make all that many appearances and Pagan Min didn't make all that many. Like, you have all these iconic villains and they barely interact with the player. It's kind of baffling. So I hope that they address that kind of shortcoming when they go about making the next Far Cry game. Pirates Outlaws is a card game roguelite, I believe. Other than that, I don't remember anything of it really. Army of Ruin is a survivors like, pretty enjoyable. I don't know who the developer is, but it's very much like an indie game, but has like a pretty decent high quality. So yeah, if you like survivors like, there's another one to easily get the 100% on. AEW Fight Forever, I don't even remember anything of this game. I'm not a wrestling person really. Like I did wrestling games back in like 2007, but have very, very much been out of the loop. Like the last, to put it into context, if any of you are like wrestling fans, like the last amount of people that I can remember is like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Hornswoggle, if anyone remembers him, the little guy. So like it's been a very long time. Sword Art Online Fatal Bullet is, I don't even know how you would describe this. It's like a gear collecting game. It's mimicking like an MMO. It's very grindy, but it's kind of addictive grindy. Like I enjoy this quite a lot. There's a lot of like dungeon delving in the game and stuff like that, and yeah, it's a cool thing. It's a cool series that I would like to get into, but just haven't. Good old Elden Ring. I think everybody knows what Elden Ring is. It has very much established itself in the echelons of gamers, winning Game of the Year and then almost having its DLC win Game of the Year. FromSoft's open world Souls-like, it's really damn good. Like very, very, very damn good. Again, when I was talking about Ashen, like the only complaint I have with it is you just need to make your co-op better, please. You need to shed this archaic system of having to resummon people and then having fog walls block off certain sections of the map. Like this shouldn't still be a thing. Like I understood it in Dark Souls 1 and 2, but like it's an open world game now. Like this kind of fucking inexcusable, if I'm being honest. So hopefully they address that. Other than that, it's a damn as close to being nearly flawless as possible for a Souls-like. Darkest Dungeon did most of this on PC from what I've played, but dabbled in aspects of it on the console, and I just find the menus to be a little bit annoying and finicky for the first Darkest Dungeon game on console. Just doesn't flow as well as I'd want it to. Lords of the Fallen 2014, I'm probably one of its biggest apologists and defenders. I think this game got unfairly shit on big time because it was one of the very first games to follow in the footsteps of Dark Souls and try and take a crack at it. And it's good enough. It is not of the bar of quality of a FromSoft Souls-like game. Of course not. Like, come on, be real. But it's good enough to, if you like the genre, you will like it if you give it a chance, most likely. It does a good enough job. And I plan on 100%ing it. I was actually in the process of going through the 100%, and in it, there's an area in it, like a catacombs area, and it just constantly kept crashing. And I didn't have that happen at all in the first playthrough, so I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's just a save game bug, whereas I'm just going to have to start over again. Not the greatest feeling in the world to have, but here we are. Alfred Hitchcock Vertigo, I have no memory of this. I know it's like a adventure, like a Telltale-esque kind of thing, where it's just a walking around, interacting with objects and dialogue trees and stuff like that. But other than that, I have no recollection of it at all. Outcast: The New Beginning. I never did any of the original Outcast game. I don't know if there was 2 Outcast games. There might have been. This is either the second or the third game, and yeah, kind of reminded me of Avatar in a lot of its design, if I'm being honest. Didn't play too much of it. We'll get back to it at some point. Payday 3, I really don't like Payday at all. I don't have a lot of respect for Starbreeze either, with the way that they handled it. The Payday stuff, being one of the many studios that heavily pushed loot boxes back in the day, for Payday 2. Just, yeah, very sour taste. And a lot of people have seemingly began to wake up to the shenanigans. The First Descendant, never end up playing through it, end up booting it up and then dropping out very quickly. Psychonauts 2, I want to get back to this. This is obviously Tim Schafer's and Double Fine's crazy adventure and sequel to Psychonauts 1. It's a really interesting and artistic world and very creative. I just wasn't in the mood for it when I ended up playing through it, but yeah, I will get back to it at some point. Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, really cool to see Atlas place more of their games on Xbox. It's really cool to have stuff like this on it. I do plan on getting back to it. Shin Megami Tensei games are just much more challenging than the likes of Persona and stuff like that. They require a little bit more thinking than Persona. You can autopilot Persona pretty well, but Shin Megami Tensei, you do have to pay attention a little bit more. Chorus, didn't play all that much of it, but it's a flight sim game where you're in a spaceship out in space. Kind of reminds me of Everspace, but very much more. It's not a roguelite, it's just a standard, single player story game that's unraveling. So, yeah, we'll get back to it at some point. Griftlands. Strange, because I've technically, in air quotes, beaten it. Did each of the characters and stuff like that. Weird. I don't know what the achievements are for the game. Kind of disappointing that you don't get one for finishing up all of the runs of each character. So kind of annoyed that that's at 0%. But I may go back and 100% this because it is a really fun card game. Yeah, really enjoyable, but it would require me to sit there and learn all the mechanics on a deep level if you're going to be getting like the 100%, because there's probably going to be like miscellaneous tasks that you'll have to be completing. Persona 3 Reload, this is obviously the remake of Persona 3. Love, love, love Persona 3. There were small aspects that I didn't like them changing in this, but for the most part it was a great remake nonetheless. Fallout 76 slightly made a comeback story. Obviously it was fucking woeful at launch, and they really struggled finding their footing with the game. But yeah, it's in a little bit more of a more stable state thing. I remember a friend saying that they went and tried one of the recent updates though, and it immediately broke their quest progression. So it's still not flawless. It's still a Bethesda game, so it can still have that BS happen to it, unfortunately. But yeah, it's in a better state. But definitely, I don't think what most Fallout fans wanted out of the series. I probably would have expected that they would have wanted a direct sequel, a Fallout 5 rather than this. Red Faction Armageddon, haven't played too much of it. It's what I do remember is Guerrilla was much more of like a sandbox-esque thing in the same way of like a Just Cause for like action and craziness, and this was much more just a keep it very linear third-person shooter kind of narrative. Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition, the remaster of Darksiders 2. I really, really like a lot of Darksiders 2. It's just kind of bloated in a way for a lot of its content, unfortunately. But yeah, Def is an incredibly interesting character, and I just love the world. I'm really interested to see where they go with a Darksiders 4, which has seemingly been announced. I think it's been officially announced. It's either that or it's been rumored heavily, and people, it's like they know it exists. I can't remember. There's been so many announcements that have happened and so many cancellations and stuff like that. Like, it's very hard to keep track of a lot of games anymore. Solvars I haven't done. Star Ocean the Divine Force, I only did like a few hours of this, but it's a fun game. JRPG, real-time JRPG, not turn-based. But yeah, haven't done any of the other games in the series, so can't really speak about it. X Defiant, this was Ubisoft's take on Call of Duty in a way, trying to breach into that space because obviously they had Siege and it was beginning to I don't think like heavily bleed players. I wouldn't go that far, but obviously you've hit your ceiling for the most part. You should probably be looking at what your next IP and live service will be, and that's what this was. I think they brought in one of the Call of Duty original creative heads to try and like spearhead the project, and it just didn't work. As you can see, it says season 3 on there. It got shut down before getting a season 4 update. I think it was on the market for about probably less than a year, maybe just over a year. I enjoyed it. Others also enjoyed it, but it didn't bring in enough to allow itself to be successful. Trek to Yomi is a 2D hack and slash. Would I go and say that? Hack and slash? Counter combat kind of thing, like Batman combat, as we mentioned, with the counter being Y and stuff like that. A very artistic game, kind of. It's like a flawed gem in a way. It had like really, really sharp difficulty spikes in some of the chapters, but overall, I enjoyed my time with it. I don't think I'll ever touch it again. Never will replay it, but it is a cool game to go through and experience at least once. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. I think I still have the feeling of this is the best stealth game ever made. Narrative aside, which is very, very flawed, the actual essence of infiltrating all these areas and then being able to adapt to your playstyle to make sure that it's never stagnant. Like if you headshot enemies, they begin to wear helmets. If you keep infiltrating bases at night, they begin to start deploying night vision goggles and stuff like that. Like, and then the actual layouts of the levels themselves, what you're doing as well, is just really cool. Really unfortunate that they obviously had their massive falling out, so we won't be seeing another Metal Gear potentially ever. I don't know if Konami have the balls to try and continue the series without him, seeing as what happened with Metal Gear Survive. But yeah, other than that, really, really phenomenal game. One day, hopefully, I'll get the 100% for it. Torment Tides of Numenera, a CRPG, very, very heavy on the dialogue, very much more dialogue centric than combat focused. Not, it didn't land with me, if I'm being honest. I think I'll go back and give it one more try, but it's. I don't like to sound harsh. It was just very dry. I don't have like another word for it. It just, I didn't find many aspects of the game very interesting and compelling, but maybe you just need to break through the intro section and the early chapters, and maybe it'll begin to like unfold and get more interesting. But yeah, just didn't really find it all that compelling. Stellaris, this is the sister series to Crusader Kings, but set in space basically. It's not obviously a one-to-one, but it's just another strategy game that they make. Paradox, and yeah, just another one where they've just pumped and pumped and pumped content into it. And I did one meaty campaign of it with a friend in co-op and just never went back to it. It's such a fucking huge game. Mortal Shell Enhanced Edition. This is another Souls-like. This time, their spin on it was the shells as part of the name, where that's your like your class in a way, where you take a bunch of damage and it will actually fling you out of the shell, and then you're a very vulnerable husk of a human, basically. It was interesting. The like art style and world style, if you were, was kind of unique. I just didn't click with it. I need to go back and give it one more shot, but it didn't really, really grip me. I actually preferred, because this came out alongside Hellpoint, and I've resonated much more with Hellpoint than I did Mortal Shell. Expeditions, a Mud Runner game. I played barely anything of this, so I won't speak upon it. Titan Quest, this is one of the original ARPGs, Diablo-like. The second game is actually coming out pretty soon, if I'm not mistaken. But this is like tackling all the different mythologies. Yeah, it's a little bit broken on console. It's not the best port to console, but a fun game otherwise. Ys Origin, haven't played very much of it, so it'll be another one that I skip. I don't really want to give much of an opinion on it. I put like an hour into it. However, I put even shorter of a time into this, but I will give an opinion. Holy shit, this game blows. The Lord of the Rings column, obviously it's been memed to death. Just the... I don't know what they were thinking. Like, you have so many different things you could be exploring in this world for the Lord of the Rings, and you chose Gollum to set a game in, and it's just like, okay, well, that's bold of you. Are you gonna make it like dark and gritty? And it's a mess of a game. Like, even the performance issues and woes aside, it's just a shit game, unfortunately. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, the sequel to Ori and the Blind Forest, one that I want to get back to, but just one of the highest quality like sets of platformers that I've ever played. Platforming like Metroidvania games. And that's like huge, huge praise coming from me because I hate that genre usually with like heavy platforming Metroidvania games. They just don't usually resonate with me. Ori, on the other hand, is just something special. So we'll be looking forward to going back to Ori and the Will of the Wisps at some point. Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. I know this kind of appeals to people. It didn't really appeal to me. This was one of the two games when me and Brandon were doing stuff over on his channel where I think Indiana Jones was the first one. And then this would have been the first one. And I think Indiana Jones was the second game where it was sticking with it so that we can both like talk about it and break it down. And it made me realize like why I probably wouldn't be able to be like a professional reviewer, because I just wouldn't want to see it through to the end, and it just wouldn't make for like an interesting thing, because it'd be like with Senua's, I just don't think it's a very good game. But on top of that, I just didn't want to roll credits on it, but forcefully rolled credits, and that's always going to negatively impact like your perception and your thought on a game. So yeah, it's just not for me, but I respect what it is. System Shock remake, I need to get back to that. Didn't play too much of it. Daymare 1998, this is obviously the inspired by Resident Evil game by a much smaller studio. I ran into like a good amount of bugs and just never went back to it, unfortunately. Void Gore, this is a shoot 'em up. One of the apparently like very easy to get achievement hunting games, which I didn't know at the time. I just remember seeing it and being like, "Ooh, I haven't like played all that many shoot 'em ups, and let's give it a go." Grabbed it on sale, and then very obviously quickly realized that it's still a fun shoot 'em up, but it's very much one of them games where it's solely there to gather you up gamer score of its design. Another idle game, Call of Duty 2. So this would have actually been the first time I played it. Whenever I went through and did the campaign here, that would be the first time I ever played through Call of Duty 2. I never did Call of Duty 2. I did a lot of the Medal of Honor games back in the day, but Call of Duty was kicked off for me first with Modern Warfare in any serious degree. And yeah, it's just a solid World War II story game. So very much what you would expect from a Call of Duty game. Iron Harvest Complete Edition. This is a real-time strategy game set in. It's like an alternate history of World War One, where people have like mechs and stuff like that, and it's like steampunk-esque. It's kind of interesting. It had like cool. What's the word I'm looking for here? Like cinematic cutscenes and stuff like that. But yeah, need to get back to it. And it's turning into a fairly negative video. Another series that I just don't gel with. This was also one that I did end up pushing through because I've heard people rant and rave about it. I just don't particularly find the Plague Tale games very compelling. Yeah, I don't like the gameplay loop. I find them okay. I'm also just, I find Hugo's voice very grating as a character, which is never good. And upon noticing that he was cast in Final Fantasy 16, that also didn't help with my ability to try and stick to that game, because all I could think about was him the entire time, and it's just like, oh, for God's sake, can't escape him. But yeah, just not for me. But they're not bad games. They're just, as I said, just not for me. Necromunda Hired Gun. Fairly low budget first person shooter set in the Warhammer universe. You're working as a bounty hunter in one of the hive cities, and you just go through, and it's kind of like Borderlands-esque in a way, where you're hunting down gear and stuff. It's just very, very low budget and low quality. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it wouldn't be something that I like recommend to people. The Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim, if you've been tuning in, you probably know what Skyrim is, but it's obviously the iconic Bethesda RPG. Yeah, I don't hold it as highly as many others, but it's a fine game. House of the Dead remake, kind of weird that they remade the House of the Dead game. Cool to see, but wouldn't have been one that I would have expected to see. I think they've even done the second game now, so need to get around to doing that. But a fun, just, what are they called? Is it railgun shooters? It's like you're on the rails and you're just aiming and shooting. It's just that, and yeah, it's just fun arcadey action. Speaking of arcadey action, one of the classic arcade games of the 360, Trials HD. This is a physics-based racing game where it's set in a camera perspective, like 2D-esque almost, with the camera being like offset, and you're basically just going through these obstacle courses trying to balance your rider and the bike and stuff like that, and it gets progressively harder. A very iconic little series that they had going there. I don't know if they're still planning on making any more of them. I know Ubisoft owns them now, I believe. They haven't really done anything with them. Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered. For me, one of the weaker Need for Speed games. It's not like terrible, but not as compelling as many other games. A lot of the basis of this game is just long stretches of road where you're either trying to run away from police or intercept as the police, and it does get a little bit stale. I know that kind of sounds stupid if you take it at like complete face value of like, it's a racing game, of course it's going to be a long stretch of road, but it's like, it's what makes like Forza Horizon so special, is that it's obviously an open world and it gets more arcadey and there's a lot more variance in the gameplay, whereas Hot Pursuit, what you're doing in the very beginning of the game is what you're going to be doing 10 hours down the line, the exact same gameplay loop. So yeah. Gotham Knights, not the greatest showing from the folks over at, what were they called? I believe this was the Arkham Origins people. And yeah, just a very disappointing. One of the ones where it released as, like I said, during the time of Marvel's Avengers, and people looking at Suicide Squad coming up, and just it's a weird fumbling over at Warner Brothers at the moment, and hopefully they can steer that ship around. Baldur's Gate 3, Larian's darling, heavily helped put them on the map. They were on the map before by a lot of people who knew who they were via being fans of CRPGs, but this was their Elden Ring moment where they beat down them doors and very much announced themselves to the world and broke into the mainstream. Have a Nice Death is a 2D side-scrolling game. Didn't get too far into it because it was very, very buggy, unfortunately. So ran into a lot of like crashes and stuff like that, and unresponsive buttons where the game would just lock up. So don't know if they fixed it. F1 Manager 2023. I think they did 2024 after this. This wasn't the last one, but Frontier did a trilogy of these F1 Manager games, and I really, really loved them. And they just didn't really do much for people, unfortunately. So I think I've spoken about the 24 game. But yeah, it's just more of the same of that. It was just obviously roster changes from the different season. The Last Hero of Nostalgia is a comedy-based Souls-like, where it's very meta, full breaking and stuff like that, and very pop culture referencing. Pretty fun game. I need to get back to it and finish it, but yeah, haven't done all that much inside of it. Saints Row 2, I found my love for the series with Saints Row 3, so didn't really engage from a narrative perspective very much with Saints Row 2. I remember this being one of them games back in the day of just booting it up and messing around with it, not making any progress like you would with the GTAs back in the day as a kid. But yeah, let's go back and try and finish it at some point. Don't think I ever did Lego Batman 2 at all. I don't remember anything about Lego Star Wars 3. Dragon Quest 11. This was my first Dragon Quest game. Didn't particularly resonate with me. It's one of them things where you've heard about the greatness that it is, that you begin to unfortunately set up expectations in your head. Everyone will do this for a game series or two, and I thought it was just going to be like a lot better than what it was, and was slightly let down. However, since then I've exposed myself to other Dragon Quest games, and I've just realized that it's not a JRPG that's looking to move the genre forward at all. This is very much just comfort food for people, and I respect that. And that's what this is. So I'll end up going back to it and just try and look at it from a different lens and try and respect it for what it is. Lord of the Click. This is a... what the hell is it called? Age of War clone-esque game where you're just building up resources and deploying units to battle automatically. Yeah, just not anything particularly special. Assassin's Creed Rogue Remastered. Probably the game that most people have slept on from the Assassin's Creed series. This obviously was a cross-gen title because it's released, I believe, on the same day as Unity. Obviously, Unity dominated the headlines for all of its performance woes and stuff like that. And given that this wasn't released on the next-gen consoles at the time, this was just a 360 game. Nobody really talked about it. But it's an interesting game where you're, instead of being an assassin, you're obviously a rogue. You've changed and you're seeing things from the perspective of the Templars, and it was kind of an interesting spin on things. Days of Doom, don't have any recollection as to what that is, so we'll move on. Age of Wonders 4, this is a 4X strategy game. I didn't play all that much of it, but enjoyed what I did play. Just these types of games are the things where once you get sucked in, there goes 200 hours of your life. So, yep. Trepang Squared. This is kind of a spiritual successor to Fear in many ways. First person shooter, and yeah, there was a ton of inspiration there with it, and it was very very interesting. It didn't expertly kind of pull off what it was trying to do, but it was good enough. It'll be interesting to see where the studio goes from here. I assume it was a success to go ahead and make something else moving forward. Major Monsters, this is a auto battler. Pretty easy to get the 100% in. Don't really have much else to say on that. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. This is FromSoft's most like aggressive departure. Like it still has Souls-like elements, but this is much more akin to being compared to like Devil May Cry and stuff like that, like a proper character action game rather than a Souls-like, and just didn't click with me because of that. I very much just enjoy the core elements of what a Souls-like game is, where you're going around environments, collecting loot from chests and stuff like that. Gameplay loop just scratches all the right itches for me, whereas this just didn't. I just didn't gel with the combat all that much, and yeah, I don't know if I'll end up going back to it. Dune Imperium. This is a card game based on Dune. Pretty weird rule set. I didn't play too much of it. I don't know if I'll be going back to it, but yeah, interesting that we've seen so many card games transition over to console. No More Heroes 3, as mentioned in the previous episode with Romeo's a Dead Man, it's very similar to that. Hack and slash, over the top action, bafflingly weird storytelling going on, but yeah, it's just a likable game. Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. Yeah, the thing that started it all for Warhorse showed that they are to be paid attention to. Very interesting developer, and they had the chops to back it up with making Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. But yeah, Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, just a good first stab at what their vision was, and just a really damn fun game. Shadows of the Damned. I think I spoke about the remaster version of this already, so I don't really need to dwell on it. I didn't get very far in the 360 version. Star Wars: The Clone Wars Republic Heroes, a very, very poor game. I don't even remember what the genre you would even consider this to be, but I just remember it being a really, really bad game, unfortunately, which is really disappointing because I really do like the Clone Wars animated series. Exit the Gungeon, I don't remember anything on. Final Fantasy XIV Online, obviously the booming MMO that is Final Fantasy XIV. Kind of unfortunate that you have to pay for a subscription to access the latter parts of the game. I think there's free access to certain levels and expansions now, but yeah, just I really don't gel with that pay for a subscription model on a console when you're already paying for online. It rubs me the wrong way. Game of Thrones, a Telltale game series. Obviously, at the height of the first few seasons of Game of Thrones, they ended up giving Telltale a stab at the IP. Weird that nothing came of it. This was obviously one of the last titles that they put out before they shut down for a little bit before being like Phoenix Resurrected later down the line. And yeah, just unfortunate. It would have been really cool to see how they tackled the Game of Thrones unraveling of all the political stuff and all the choices and stuff like that, because it was building to an interesting story. Monster Hunter Rise, this was obviously originally dropped on the Switch, then made its way to Xbox at a later date. I've not played much of it. It definitely plays a lot more different to World than I would like, if I'm being honest. But yeah, I'll get back to it at some point. Shadowrun Returns, the Cyberpunk CRPG. Quite a lot of performance issues on this one as well, unfortunately. I don't know if I'll end up going back to it on the console. The Xbox PC app has the PC builds of it. I'll probably end up just playing it through that at some point. But yeah, there was just a lot of like interaction issues with being able to like not click on doors and stuff like that, which is kind of unfortunate. Speaking of issues, man, the Battlefront Classic Collection. I think they've since patched it and made it working, but this was like a really, really bad release of two iconic games and really like fanned the flames of people not having respect for Aspire, and they really didn't help themselves here. So yeah, I've not gone back since. It left a very sour taste in my mouth. Dead Island 2, the long awaited sequel to Dead Island. It did okay. It was one of the things where it was in development hell and was a title that saw its way over the finish line and wasn't complete trash. So that's always good to see. But yeah, I don't know how successful the game was, because you got to think of it being in development for so long. Switching hands between developers, like, it would have cost a lot of money to get this out. So I don't know if they ended up meeting the budgets that they'd spent on it and turning a profit, unfortunately. Cyberpunk 2027, 77, sorry. Yeah, CDPR's massive new IP that they did with the follow-up of The Witcher 3 obviously had its major issues at launch. Have mostly, I would say, since been fixed. It's going to be interesting to see what they end up delivering with a sequel to this, because there was a lot of ideas, a lot of vision that was not executed or explored with 2077 in the end. And yeah, sky's the limit for it. You know, I have faith in them to get it right the second time and not have anywhere near the amount of issues that they had. It also didn't help that they had to try and release it on last gen hardware with Xbox One and PS4. It would have just been better if they did the next gen at the time builds so that they weren't heavily constrained with system requirements, but that's just the nature of the beast. Yakuza 0, one of my favorite Yakuza games, was my first game in the series, exposing me to it, and just fell in love with everything about this game and this series. And yeah, just a phenomenal game. Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I think we should be getting a third game in the series relatively soon, but yeah, this is Respawn puffing their chest to EA and being like, no man, you can still seriously make single player games and people will care about them as long as they're good, and has proven that back to back now with Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. So yeah, kudos to you, Respawn. Stranglehold. This was a Max Payne kind of clone game. John Woo presents Stranglehold. Just perfect, of like a classic like action movie. I think it's inspired by Hard Boiled. I wanna say is the name of it. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, just a really fun game. You don't really see get tackled very much anymore, which is kind of unfortunate. These two I don't have much memory on, so we'll move on. Blasphemous. This is a Metroidvania, a very distinct art style that they have going on with the Blasphemous games, like really grotesque pixel art. I didn't really gel with the gameplay of Blasphemous 1, so didn't end up playing too much of it. Maybe I'll go back and try it again in the future, but yeah, didn't really click with me all that much. RoboCop Rogue City. This is, I can't remember the name of the developer. Oh, what are they called? I don't remember. The same people who did the Terminator game, Resistance, I believe, did RoboCop Rogue City, and they kind of just have found their perfected niche of just taking like a 70s, 80s, 90s action movie and just making a game out of it, and just making it a first person shooter single player campaign, and just, yeah, give you a 10-hour campaign of that, and there you go. And people are resonating with it, so keep them coming. It'll be cool to have like a, I don't know, an Evil Dead game come out of them, or maybe a Predator game, you know? The sky's the limit. Chivalry 2 is a multiplayer game where it's just sword combat, spear combat, stuff like that, just medieval combat set on big maps and stuff. And yeah, it was alright. It was a good laugh to be a part of, but if I'm going to play a game like this, I would have very much prefer it to be like Mountain Blade, where it's single player and you're building up a rich world rather than multiplayer. Because the unfortunate reality is these games are very easily abusable on like mouse and keyboard. So having to play with people who have mouse and keyboard plugged in have a major advantage over those who are playing on controller. Immortals of Avium. I don't know who made this. I know it was published by EA, but yeah, kind of a weird random game that I feel like they greenlit. I think it had a lot more budget than it probably should have. It didn't really do much for EA. And is probably one of the many reasons that they have such a disdain for single player games, because you had Mirror's Edge that came out with them that they didn't really succeed at gripping people with, and why they just want to focus on multiplayer, unfortunately. But yeah. Rainbow Six Siege. 100% this all the way back in probably like 2017 when it was at its peak for me, in my mind. Yeah, it was a special game for many years, and then they started to take pro advice much more seriously and trying to just make everything equally competitive, and then when that was done, it just lost its specialness. Because you think back of like the iconic memories you had with Modern Warfare 2, and it was because it was an unbalanced, broken mess. You know, that's why he was able to have fun. So if they went back and did Modern Warfare 2 now, they would be constantly tweaking and then it just becomes no longer unique, and that's what Siege lost in my mind for a lot of stuff. A lot of the maps that they moved forward with were just very vanilla and thought out, rather than being like creative, you know. And it's like, I get it, you want to appease your pros because they're the ones who make the money, but yeah, it pushed me and my friend group out. I know that for certain. I'm sure it did that for many others. Red Dead Redemption 2, obviously Rockstar's, for what many would say is their magnum opus, easily their greatest narrative that they've ever written, and personal stories that they've ever tackled with characters in their world. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, it's so successful, they will continue with it. Whether or not they're going to do a sequel, prequel yet again, or if they're going to do a sequel where it moves the timeline forward. So, yeah. Warhammer Vermintide 2. This is a Left 4 Dead-like game set in the Warhammer universe, very much more focused on the melee combat. So, Left 4 Dead 2, basically, when they added melee weapons. Yeah, it's good enough. It's a little bit too grindy for my taste, if I'm being honest. But it has a fun little gameplay loop, and it's kind of unfortunately that we've moved away from like the, what was it called? Was it the End Times, I think is what it was called, the time frame for this, with this Warhammer, and then they did the Age of Sigmar, where they rebooted a lot of the fantasy elements and kind of lost a lot of its specialness. It was kind of like mimicking the 40k verse in a way, and a lot of people didn't like that. So it's kind of cool to see like fantasy still being explored in that way before they did the massive reboot. But there we go, that is an hour. Feels like I've been talking forever. So we're picking up with If You Know, You Know, one of my my guilty pleasures in Swansong, which we'll save for next episode. But yeah, if you somehow stumbled upon this channel, make sure to go check out the description down below and have a peek at Brandon's channel, who does amazing content. And we do a podcast every month at the beginning of the month, if you want to see our beautiful faces and hear our controversial opinions about many things, I'm sure. But yeah, if you want to join the Discord with like-minded gamers such as yourself, pop a comment down below and I'll hit you back the link. But other than that, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.